So we're here in Tel Aviv, Israel, at the eToro headquarters. This is the premier blockchain and also trading platform in all of Israel and also all of Europe as well. We have the pleasure of being joined by the CEO. Welcome, and thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much for coming here.
So tell us about yourself, tell us about eToro. When did all of this start?
Sure, we started eToro late 2006, founded the company, raised initial capital, and we started the company with the vision of opening the global markets for everyone to trade and invest in a simple and transparent way. I started the company with my older brother. I come from a trading background and a computer sciences background, so I've done both programming and trading since I was 13. And my older brother always used to make fun of me that I have an accountant fetish, sitting with multiple screens and numbers, etc. So when we started, it was about how do you visualize, how do you make trading and accessing the global markets simpler? And ever since, I think, I started dealing with digital currencies pre-Bitcoin, like in 2008, started thinking about sort of the digitization of finance. And when we started sort of looking at Bitcoin in 2011 and 10, we got sort of extremely excited about the potential of this new technology.
And well, so how did you become interested in Bitcoin very early on? Because back then people were scared of Bitcoin even now. So to be that early, what made you
again,
interest?
I come from a background of both finance and technology, right? So eToro is one of the largest fintech companies now in the world, but we started eToro before the term fintech actually was coined. And when you deal with finance and sort of connect to the big banks and connect with high volumes of trades, you find out that the entire financial services system is still analog. And as a computer scientist, that sort of blew my mind. So you understand that things need to be connected in a much better way. And Bitcoin suddenly was just a very clear way of describing a way for people to be able to transfer money overseas and to move digital assets in a very simple way. I remember the first time I looked at Bitcoin and downloaded the software and sent it. I was like, wow, this is exactly the same feeling I had when I connected to the internet for the first time, I think in 1995 or 6 with our modems. And you were like, wow, I'm downloading Simpsons episodes in text from BBSs.
Oh, wow, that's cool. So you've worked with some very interesting people in the space. Can you kind of tell us about that?
Sure. So I've been in the space, again, since 2010-11, and I've went to the, when was it? I think, I forgot the place, it was the West Coast, the big event in 2012.
DevCon?
No, it was, I'll find the actual, so this was like one of the big first events in 2012. And we actually lectured there about colored coins. So again, the whole vision of eToro is to digitize finance and to open the global markets for everyone. And we see blockchain as a big enabler to actually enable the tokenization of all types of financial assets, from stocks to commodities to indices to currencies, that everything could be digitized as a blockchain asset and therefore could be sort of traded and transferred online in real time. So we started this project in 2012. I think we talked about that and presented it in the conference. And a lot of the early crypto community, back then crypto was basically Bitcoin, were involved in the Colored Coins project. So from Charlie Lee, who's there on the mailing list,
Alex
Mizrahi, like a lot of people were involved in the project. I think even Loop was involved. Like a lot of people looked at this. This was sort of started at Bitcoin Talk, and then Vitalik actually sent us an email. So we started working with this. This was the Google group, and Vitalik sent us an email asking whether he could participate and sort of contribute to the Colored Coins initiative. And he started working with us on it. He made sort of a lot of the big changes to the white paper. So he wrote the Colored Coins initial white paper, and then sort of started the entire discussion of Bitcoin and blockchain can be more than just Bitcoin. It could be the basis for tokenization of all assets. Eventually, Vitalik obviously took that a step further and built his own blockchain, built Ethereum, which generally is more than just tokenization of assets. It's already the concept of smart contracts and being able to sort of create Turing complete code to create sort of transfers between these assets. So it's even bigger than the concept of just tokenization of assets. But we thought it would take much, much longer. And then Mt. Gox happened. And post Mt. Gox, and when Mt. Gox happened, there was like 3 years of silence. Like we had Bitcoin trading on eToro since 2014. So people can trade stocks, commodities, indices, currencies, like regular currencies, fiat currencies on eToro, and they could trade Bitcoin. But very few actually traded Bitcoin pre-2017. And then in 2017, sort of the rally started.
The bull market.
And then we added Ethereum to the platform. We were the first platform to add Ethereum into a regulated financial services firm. And sort of when it went from $8 to $200 within a very short time frame, then sort of the entire crypto community and everything started rallying, both in the markets but also into eToro.
That's pretty impressive. You guys have been around since the beginning, and now to where you're still heavily involved in this space. Now, what are you currently doing right now in terms of blockchain? I hear you have some new things you're working on.
So as I mentioned before, we're looking at the tokenization of financial assets as the key disruptor to the financial services industry. We're now launching, basically enabling people. So we're a trading platform where people can invest in the top 12 cryptocurrencies. They can trade them to different fiats. So people can deposit various types of fiat into eToro and then trade cryptocurrencies together with trading stocks, commodities, indices, etc. But traditionally, eToro is fiat in, fiat out platform. Now we're launching the wallet to our customers to enable them to also basically transfer from the eToro platform into the wallet, and then through a regulated wallet service, be able to send and receive the various cryptos. So use it as a payment method, which goes into the entire philosophy of, is Bitcoin a medium of exchange? And we're also setting up eToro X, which is our exchange, which is going to be launched later this year.
As a crypto exchange?
As a crypto to crypto exchange.
Now, there's so many different cryptocurrencies out there. How do you determine which ones to list or put on your platform?
So we have quite a rigorous due diligence process, both approved, by the way, with our regulators to define which ones sort of we onboard into the eToro platform. Now, that doesn't mean we say this is a good cryptocurrency, buy the good cryptocurrency. Everything depends on price, obviously. But what we check is basically, first of all, market cap, so minimum threshold of market cap. We check the volumes across various exchanges, and specifically exchanges that we work with. So when you buy Bitcoin in eToro, we're connected to 15 different exchanges. So we actually get sort of the ability to buy. You can buy in a single day $200 million of cryptos in the various exchanges. So making sure that the volume on that cryptocurrency is sufficient for our customers and that they wouldn't impact price too significantly. We're doing some due diligence on sort of the team, the blockchain itself. Then we're doing technical sort of testing, so to make sure that we can cold storage. So we have our own cold storage facilities. So every crypto we provide, we need to understand both how to do cold storage for, and obviously understand how to work with the blockchain itself, how to send and receive assets, etc., in a secure way. And then we do some initial research. So we have a research group on eToro. So we send daily updates to our customers about what's happening in the global markets. That team actually goes through every new token to do sort of initial analysis. What we're making sure is that our customers can go into the market and go out of that market easily and with a single click. So liquidity is very significant in eToro, and that these coins, we believe, will exist in the future and have an ecosystem of developers, funding, etc. around them.
So do you see yourself, now that you're getting more heavily into crypto, competing with other crypto exchanges like Binance, and other
I think that
platforms out
the
there?
space, our view of competition has always been sort of co-opetition, especially in the crypto space. I think, the internet is very big and just getting bigger. And I think all of us believe that crypto assets are going to get much, much bigger, right? So if crypto assets aren't going towards trillions, then this is not interesting for any of us. So we're all looking at this market, which is a $200 billion market cap, and we're all assuming that the total market cap of crypto is going to be measured in trillions. Maybe it's 3 years from today, 5 years from today, 10 years from today. When that happens, the big financial services companies in the space, the big fintechs that are regulated, that have went through bear markets and bull markets, are going to be very large companies. They're going to be the Goldman Sachs, JP Morgans, and Morgan Stanleys of the future. So, and when you think about the future that way, you're just less concerned about competition, and you're more concerned about what you're building and what's the value and what's the service you're giving to your customers.
Very well said. You guys want to add any questions?
Yeah, where do you see cryptocurrency and blockchain 5 years down the road from right now?
I think we're definitely going to see now a process of sort of regulatory change. It's going to be clearer and clearer that if you operate in a regulated manner, then sort of you do the KYC and that entire process. So taking a bit away from the privacy. And then I think that will lead actually to a lot of innovation in the decentralized space. The whole concept of crypto is decentralization, but the entire business right now is actually extremely centralized in the big exchanges, in all of the service providers. And I think once regulation sort of pushes the fiat to crypto to be regulated, and firms will have to be regulated, it will also push innovation in sort of the decentralized services that can service the industry. The second part is, I think we're going to see, so we're now seeing sort of the proliferation of stablecoins. I definitely think that's a very big trend that's not going to stop. I think we're going to see most exchanges have their own stablecoins, because the way we look at it, when you deposit funds into an exchange, if that exchange sort of supports fiat, and they have an account balance and you can see your account balance in that exchange, and it says dollars, that's not actually dollars. That's that exchange dollars, right? So, because if that exchange goes bankrupt, those dollars goes with them, right? So actually every financial institution where you have a balance, it's actually Goldman Sachs coins and JP Morgan coins and Wells Fargo coins. So when you deposit funds into financial institutions, they actually issue stablecoin. They just call it dollars or euros or pounds. Now what we're seeing is technology enabling us, consumers and regulators, to differentiate between them. By the way, like we used to differentiate them 100 years ago when private money existed. And I think that's a very big process. It's a very interesting process because it means people can understand better their credit risk and potentially help mitigate things like 2008 financial crisis, where everything is commingled. In parallel to sort of the emergence of stable coins, I think we're going to also see, again, the big question, whether it's the next 5 years or maybe, entrepreneurs are usually very optimistic about the future. We're probably going to see central bank digital currencies somewhere in the next 5 to 10 years. Probably a small country that's going to do a big impact. You've probably heard the story of Marshall Islands. Yes. And if not, you should film that as well.
Island?
No, so Marshall Islands is a country, it's a UN country, and they've announced that they're going to launch their own crypto. There's a company, an Israeli company, helping them with the technology, but that had a lot of sort of impact. The IMF to announce that they shouldn't do it, etc. So, and obviously there's the Venezuela one as well. I think we're definitely going to see some countries, probably smaller ones at first, with less to lose, try to sort of go digital and launch their own cryptocurrencies. We don't know what these cryptocurrencies will look like. Will it be public blockchains, private blockchain, government blockchains? Because I think that's a very big stepping stone of the process. And in parallel to sort of stable coins and central bank cryptocurrencies, I think we're definitely going to see security tokens. So I think NASDAQ announced that they're building a platform for security tokens. I think we're going to see more mature platforms that offer the ability to trade in security tokens, even if it means that only accredited investors can register into those platforms. But again, it just makes sense. So when you're a startup investor today, you're stuck for 7-10 years if the startup actually succeeds, and you're completely unable to liquidate your holding almost in sort of that duration, only if that startup actually makes it, either sells or does an IPO, right? It makes a lot of sense for you, if you're a accredited investor and you're investing in startups, to be able to offload the position if it went 2x, 3x, 5x, even if it went down. Liquidity makes a lot of sense, and liquidity is eventually a combination of technology, so enabling people to trade that asset class, and obviously sort of market infrastructure. So somebody else has to be willing to buy it from you.
Now, do you think that's something eToro would have down the line? Security tokens?
Definitely, we are looking at adding both stable coins to our platform, issuing stable coins, security tokens. So remember, we're a regulated securities broker worldwide, so we actually trade in securities.
So you already have that.
So we already have all the infrastructure to enable people to trade security tokens. We actually segment our users into accredited and non-accredited users, so we're able to offer the accredited or professional users potentially other assets, and definitely within the next a much shorter time frame, but in the next 5 years, I see us adding a lot of new assets that don't exist today on eToro, will exist 5 years from today due to tokenization of assets. Hopefully real estate, which is a super interesting asset class that I believe should be tokenized, enabling investments in private companies, which I think is super interesting. And again, there's a big sort of legal framework that needs to be established on how do you offer these services and how do you provide liquidity to those services.
Now, based on your trajectory, you're a pioneer in the crypto space, and you worked alongside some of the largest, biggest names, Vitalik, Alex. Who would you say was your biggest influencer throughout this journey?
Wow, that's a good question. I'll need to think about who's my biggest influencer. I'm definitely a fan of Vitalik. I definitely think he's one of the brilliant minds, both in the industry, but maybe it's an extreme way of saying it, but in the world today. I think that what he managed to pull off with Ethereum is mind-blowing. When he sent me the initial white paper of Ethereum, I think I sent him something like, you're trying to do what Bitcoin does to money, to the legal system. That's going to take a long while to sort of change the concept that a company is a company that's registered in a state and people hold money there, and financial contracts are something that are sort of written by lawyers, and when they're signed, there's always sort of governing law, which is local by definition. It's a big argument in big contracts. What's the governing law of this contract? And move that to the digital dimension where programmers write these contracts. And I thought that would take 20 years to happen, 10 to 20 years. But that all happened in a year. And that's mind-blowing that it happened in a year. Now, there's a lot of criticism about, shit coins and do smart contracts work and what's decentralized and not decentralized. But the fact is, it's inspired tens of thousands of people to look at the potential of this technology and understand that we can basically build something that's a new way of communicating, uniting, and collaborating between people.
So 2017 was a bull market, and now in 18 we've had a prolonged bear market. Did your strategy change at all in terms of business-wise?
So our view is still bullish long term on crypto.
Okay.
So we've decided to sort of make sure that we can offer the entire full services in the crypto space and for eToro. Our view is still, I'd say, much more bullish than it was 2 years ago,
Okay.
that the tokenization of assets is a process that's going to happen within the next 5 years. By the way, even when you think of companies like eToro, we've raised to date $162 million, amongst others, from the top VCs in the US, in Europe, from 4 of the largest financial institutions in the world. And I can definitely tell you, I founded the company. I'm highly connected and sort of inspired by the blockchain industry. But the fact that everything that happened has happened enables me to innovate more, enables me to take bigger sort of decisions around this, because suddenly my entire board and our investors understand, okay, there's a very high potential of this space, where 3 years ago, when we launched Bitcoin and I talked about Bitcoin, people were like completely like, okay, let's not argue with him and let's not sort of fight with him over this, because he seems very passionate about this Bitcoin thing, but let's make sure it's, he doesn't defocus the company towards crypto. And now the narrative changed. It's like, okay, yeah, go get it. Anything around this space is sort of greenfield. So I think that's the important thing. Now it sort of opened the potential for everyone.
Okay.
So apart from implementing regulation, what needs to happen in order to gain traction again and move on an upward trend?
There's the optimistic view and the pessimistic view. The optimistic view is killer apps, right? So there is going to be an app which is viral, which catches on the imagination of a new generation, and everybody would want to use that app, and that app somehow falls under the right regulatory framework to be able to be accessible worldwide. It's like the Fortnite of crypto, right? So that's the optimistic view, is crypto is going to get Fortnite. Fortnite does, I don't know, a lot of money every month. All of that money will flow into crypto. Prices will start rising again. Then we'll see more and more of these sort of killer apps. That's the optimistic view. Then the pessimistic view is a financial crisis is inevitable. The financial markets are working in cycles of booms and busts. While we all feel like the markets are generally in a bull run right now, our customers in Argentina or Brazil don't necessarily think so, and neither do people in Turkey or Venezuela or even Russia. So fiat currencies are under attack. I don't remember, we're actually just now doing this research, because like we sat down and again, we trade in currencies as well, right? So we have the Mexican peso and a lot of and the Chinese yuan and the Russian ruble, and you can trade them on eToro. I don't remember another point in time in my history, but my history is still relatively short, that we saw 4 big economies devalue their currency so significantly, right? Think about it, like not a lot of people deal with this, but we can see there's Turkey, Argentina, Brazil, Venezuela, Russia to some extent, which is a bit of last year, which have seen a significant devaluation of their currencies. Now, if you think about these specific markets, then obviously Bitcoin for them actually is not necessarily in a bear market. For people in Venezuela, buying Bitcoin was a good investment rather than holding local currency. But if you think about a wider scope, and you're thinking about 2008 financial crisis level or 2000 dot-com bubble, I think that if shit hits the fan right now, if people are panicking because they don't understand where to put their money anymore, like what exactly happened in 2008 or in the dot-com bubble or before in the LTCM drop with a crisis in Russia, or 5 years before that in the crisis in Asia. So when these big crises happen, I think people will go to Bitcoin. They will look at Bitcoin as a safe haven to some extent. They won't put all of their money into Bitcoin. But all you need is one billionaire in a country during a crisis to say, I'll put 1%, $100 million, $200 million into Bitcoin to start moving the markets. Now the domino effect is inevitable. So if the world is in turmoil and everybody's panicking and the markets are crashing 30% and your currency is devaluing and you can buy less and less in your local grocery store, but there's just one thing every day going up and it's called Bitcoin and everybody's talking about it, we're going to see a mania that we haven't seen before. So that's the pessimistic view. If you're not a bag holder, if you are a bag holder, you can actually look at that as an optimistic view as well.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, you're definitely well versed in this space, you know, and I would say you're definitely very impressive. You know, the stuff you've built from the ground up. It's a pleasure just being here with you.
Pleasure, guys. Thank you very much.
I need a nice girl to go to. I gotta make moves. I need the right girl if it goes wrong.